Good morning, my friends. Welcome to our New Testament challenge. Today I'll be sharing some thoughts from the 9th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. We are well into our New Testament challenge, all the way through Matthew. We're about halfway through Mark and moving on, one chapter each day. If you'd like to catch up or go back and rewatch some of the earlier videos, you can find those on our webpage, psfumc.org, and then look for NT Challenge, or you can go to our church's YouTube channel, and we've got all those videos saved for you there. But the 9th chapter of Mark, a lot going on in here. He is kind of in the middle of his ministry, and he had just talked about his death and resurrection. There at the very beginning of chapter 9, he says, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see that the kingdom of God has come with power. In other words, he said it's soon and very soon. We need to be ready. Immediately after that, he said, 6 days later, Jesus goes up on the mountain with James, John, and Peter. And while he is there, he is transfigured before them. He is changed. He looks like he is dressed in dazzling white. And there appears to them Elijah and Moses. Now, Elijah represents the prophets, Moses represents the law, Jesus represents the gospel, and so they're there. And as you can imagine, the disciples are freaking out, and Peter's like, "Oh man, this is awesome!" Peter would be the ultimate groupie, I'm convinced. He said, "This is awesome. We got to pitch a tent and just hang out up here, and we could sing Kumbaya all day long and just have a wonderful, wonderful time." And Jesus, you can just imagine Jesus just shaking his head. He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadows them, and out of the cloud comes his voice, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." And then when they looked around, there was no one else there but Jesus. Now, if you remember back to Jesus' baptism, there is the voice of God speaking, "This is my beloved, my son, whom I love. Listen to him." And so there's kind of at the beginning of his ministry, and here, right before things really, really get tough, there's an affirmation once again of Jesus' ministry by God. And so they're coming down from the mountain, and they were asking Jesus, what is all this? And he tells them, "Don't tell anybody." And they talking to themselves, and they said, "All right, why did the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" And he tells them, "Elijah's already come. He came first to restore all things, and he is to go through many sufferings, be treated contempt. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did to him whatever they pleased." We will see in other places that John the Baptist plays that role. He is Elijah this time around, and we know what happened to John. He was beheaded. He was imprisoned and beheaded because of what he did and his beliefs. So he tells them, "Go ahead, shh, mum's the word, don't tell anybody." So they come down, and they see the rest of the disciples, and there's a big commotion, and there's some folks arguing and just a variety of different things. And he says, "What's going on?" He says, "There's this child who has this spirit, and the spirit makes him unable to speak, and it seizes him and throws him in the fire, throws him in the water, grinds his teeth, becomes rigid." For us today, it sounds like he was having grand mal seizures, and so they said he was being possessed, and Jesus' other disciples couldn't do anything. So he comes up there. Jesus comes up and says, "How long has this been happening?" Talking to the father. He says, "Since he was born." And he says, "Lord, if you're able to do anything, have pity on us and help us." And Jesus' response, he said, "If you're able, all things can be done for the one who believes." And immediately the father, I love this, cries out, "I believe, help my unbelief." He was willing to do whatever it took for his son. And he recognized then that he did not, Lord, help me believe. So I know you can do this. And Jesus saw, his faith. He commanded the spirit to come out and never enter him again. And the child cried out, convulsed, and lay down like he was dead. And people were saying, "Oh, he's dead." But Jesus says, "No." And he stands him up. And they entered the house. And the disciples asked him, "Why couldn't we do this?" And Jesus says, "Some of these can come out only through prayer. In other words, only through the direct intervention of God, only by praying to God and saying, 'Lord, I need your help with this.'" Once again foretells his death and resurrection. The disciples still don't get it, which is kind of fun. And then, this is interesting. One of the things about the disciples that I love is several things. One, after Jesus is gone, they are the ones that really, this is where the church grows. Peter, James, and John and the other disciples, they go out, they spread the gospel, the church grows and just explodes and does incredible things. And so they obviously understand everything they need to know about God. But here in the midst of this, while they're with Jesus, they seem to be kind of stumbling, bumbling. They don't quite know what's going on. In other words, they're very, very human. And for me, who am also very human, this is helpful to know that God can still use us even when we are dumb and stupid, even when we are prideful and arrogant, even when we make mistakes. God is still going to be able to use us as he used the disciples. So they didn't know what was going on, and then they start arguing about who's the greatest. And when Jesus asked them what you're arguing about, you can just see it. It's like two siblings arguing in the back seat, and then mom says, "What are y'all talking about?" Nobody wants to say anything because they know it's stupid. And so they didn't answer, and he said, "All right." He called the 12. All right, and you can just see him. All right, let me tell you again what this means. Let me show you. And he grabbed a little child and put it among them, and he says, whoever welcomes such a child as this, well, in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me. In other words, the child is at the bottom of the social ladder, and so if you are going to be the greatest, you need to welcome the least. And then they said, "Jesus, we saw someone else casting out demons in your name, but he wasn't one of us. And we tried to stop him." And Jesus said, "Don't stop him. If he's doing that in my name, if he's doing this in the name of God, only God can give him the power to do that. Whoever is not against us, just for us." In other words, there are going to be people, there are going to be churches who are doing good things who are not a part of what we are doing. That doesn't mean they're against us. It just means that God has given them different skills, different sets, different harvest. And God has granted us multiple churches, multiple ways of sharing the good news. And so we ought to be thankful for that. And then he goes on, he says, "If any of you puts a stumbling block before one of the little ones who believe in me," and this is not just children, I think this is young Christians, new believers, "it would be better if a great millstone was hung around their neck." He said, "If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. If your foot, cut it off. If you have an eye causes you to stumble, tear it out." Obviously he is exaggerating here, but what he is trying to say is it's better to be less in one area and still enter the kingdom of God than it is to be full and complete, and, as he puts it, fall into the lake of fire, into the unquenchable fire. If there's something that you have that causes you to stumble, that causes you to sin, do what you can to take that out of your life. and that can be difficult. I've got good friends who have been sober for years and years and years. And several of them would say that when they were drinking, they were more confident. They had, felt like they could do anything, but it also destroyed them. And so they are proud of the fact that they are sober, even though it is a battle, even though it is a constant struggle. They're proud of that fact. And so they took that out of their lives so that they could be better devoted and better able to be a disciple of Christ. So if there's something that's keeping you from being totally devoted to God, it might be worth thinking about how you can negate that effect. Whether you can do it less often, or whether you might have to get rid of it altogether. It's not easy, but the results are definitely worth it. Thanks a lot, my friends. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.